on 23rd of February 2024, the Independent Migratory Advisory Committee within the UK released its immigration review list. Now, this was a rapid review of the shortage occupation list, and from this list, it's actually created a new list. And this new list is called the Immigration Salary List, which is the ISL. Now, does this mean that the shortage occupation list is going to be scrapped entirely or not? If you are confused about it, do not forget to watch this video all the way to the end. But my name is Nikita and I make videos about living in the UK, clearing your HCPC and landing jobs as a healthcare professional. So, without wasting any more time, if you want a bit of context, let's rewind a little bit in the last quarter of this year and also in December to see what really happened. So as you were aware, the Home Secretary of the UK was planning to cut down the immigration, and one way to do it was that he asked the MAC, which is the Migration Advisory Committee, to list down certain recommendations that they would follow or that they would advise the UK government to follow in order to reduce net migration. Now, this was no surprise because obviously I've explained before in a video that I'm going to link right here that there was the 5-point plan based system in order to reduce net immigration, and one of the biggest plans on there was to increase the salary thresholds. Now, it wasn't surprising that the Home Secretary asked the MAC to actually review the entire shortage occupation list because there were so many professions on there who were getting special treatment and obviously special considerations when applying for jobs and work visas in the UK. Now, obviously, a large chunk of it came from the health and care worker visa, and we'll get a bit into detail about that in a minute. But what essentially the Home Secretary wanted the MAC to do is review the SOL, which is a shortage occupation list, and actually come up with a new list, which now we know is called the ISL, which is the Immigration Salary List. And one of the biggest features about this list is that the 20% going rate discount for the work visa for the shortage occupation list is going to be scrapped entirely if your job is not on the new list. So, on 17th of Jan 2024, the UK Home Secretary reached out to the MAC again, and they were asked to consider what occupations fall on the current shortage occupation list and what occupations are really on the shortage list right now. That is, what were the recommendations that they had received from October 2023. So the MAC spent all of this time reviewing all of this information and has come out with a new list. These occupations are going to be temporarily included on the ISL and are included as a part up to April 2024. Now, if you are interested about knowing what are the implications that this is going to have for you, do not forget to watch this video all the way to the end because I will be discussing and picking out the exact points that are released by MAC. Now, one of the most interesting things that the MAC recommended was that it wanted to take off all of the occupations from the shortage occupation list and have only 21 occupations on the immigration salary list. And this actually was a statistically stunning figure because this was only about 8% of roles which would be eligible for the skilled worker employment route. And what this goes on to say is obviously that the new immigration salary list is far shorter than the shortage occupation list, and the difference is going to be mind-blowing because it's going to be much shorter as compared to the original shortage occupation list that we've been following. And you would say, why is this, Nikita? Well, let me answer this question by giving you statistical figures. So the earlier shortage occupation list that we have been following until now had nearly 30% of overall roles from the skilled worker category onto the shortage occupation list. That means that nearly 30% of roles qualified to be on the shortage occupation list. But according to the ISL, only 8% of these roles will now be on the ISL, which means that they have dropped this by nearly 22%. Now, another key bit of information to remember is that of the 21 occupations that are listed on the ISL, they are currently following the 18 recommendations presented by MAC for the UK-wide immigration list and 3 recommendations for Scotland's immigration list alone. Now, the MAC itself has been a bit cautious while releasing this list and has said that it will review the ISL later this year and that more clarity will be provided about this list and all of the topics that are included in it. So obviously the MAC is aware that this is quite in its initial stages, but it has given these recommendations for the ISL at the minute. So let's talk about what's the benefit of the ISL, which is the immigration salary list. So the main benefit that was released by MAC was that it hopes that it will reduce the actual salary thresholds by nearly 20% for those occupations which are now on the ISL. Now, just a quick reminder that these salary thresholds were meant to be increasing from April 2024 as released by the Home Secretary earlier on in this year. So the MAC setting out these specific boundaries for these specific occupations means that if your occupation is listed on the new ISL, you will still have a 20% reduction as compared to the general skilled worker category and all of the occupations that fall on it. So just to give you a bit more idea about what are these expected increases. So as you can see, the skilled worker salary threshold was meant to be increasing from £26,700 to nearly £38,000, which was nearly a whooping increase of £10,000. And for non-healthcare jobs which are on the shortage occupation list, the increase was going to be from £20,000 to £30,000. And finally, for healthcare professionals, the limit was set at £23,200. But as you can see, this has been considerably higher as compared to all of the previous years. And this was obviously in a bid to reduce net immigration in the UK. So, what was the biggest disadvantage of this information? Well, this just means that many of the skilled worker routes that a lot of people were taking advantage of and sort of getting employment under will now be unavailable because you would have to meet the higher threshold of nearly £38,000 in order to qualify for the skilled worker visa in the UK, which is really quite high and may not be available to most entry-level jobs. So let's see which are the 21 occupations included on the ISL. So as you can see on your screens right there, the first is obviously managers and proprietors in forestry and fishing. You then have lab technicians, pharmaceutical technicians, boat and shipbuilders, bricklayers and masons again, roofers, construction and building trades, animal care services, care workers and home carers and senior care workers. Some of the other occupations include chemical scientists, biological scientists, social and humanities scientists, artists, dancers and choreographers, musicians, art officers, graphic designers, wielding trades, and carpenters and joiners. So as you can see, this is the most updated list on the ISL, and obviously feel free to reach out to me about if you want a sort of detailed explanation of this, but I've left this entire list with more information in the description box below for you to check by yourself anyways. So what is the impact for this on you? So as you all understood that obviously the ISL includes only 8% of jobs that are included under the skilled worker visa route, whereas the SOL, that is the shortage occupation list, previously had nearly 30% of these jobs. So what this essentially means that now the number of jobs that are available to you in order to take an advantage of to get the skilled worker visa is going to be much lesser because there are only 21 occupations which fall on that. So obviously, lesser number of jobs will get the special advantage of being on a specific list in order to qualify for employment. But also what's important to remember is that since the salary thresholds for all of the other jobs have increased so highly, you may not even qualify to get a skilled worker visa if your employment or your salary thresholds are not meeting the new minimum requirements as of April 2024. Now, again, a word of caution. Many healthcare professionals such as pharmacists, physios, OTs, speech and language therapists were on the shortage occupation list previously but are not included on the current ISL. This can cause a lot of caution and worry, and you are absolutely right if you are concerned about this. But what I want to remind you is that this is the recommendations provided by the MAC for the UK Home Office and the UK government, where obviously it is making recommendations so as to dissuade UK employers from hiring internationally trained professionals in order to qualify for these work roles, which are obviously there at the minute. These findings and recommendations by MAC will now be reviewed by the UK government before it makes a decision on the new immigration salary thresholds. However, it's largely accepted that the MAC recommendations will be included in them. So this is not to dissuade you or not to discourage you from applying to jobs within the UK, especially if you have your HCPC registration. However, think about it a bit more wisely and be aware about your choices. That's all from today's video, guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below, and I will try to make a follow-up video if many of you all have these further questions. Take care. Bye.